Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's episode. In tonight's episode, my attention has yearned for the future, and for a moment I felt that the most important thing that needs advancement on this planet is communication, because communication is in some sense the program that the mind or the brain is running. The brain is its genetical design. It's like a program, a system, and then this system is implementing itself. When I say future visions of an advanced reality in these talks of mine, I have spoken about the advanced communicator, the idea of an individual reaching a certain point where they find themselves inseparable with the advanced communication of the universal sector. That means the task of every speaker, of every communicator, is that the universe is giving a sermon. The universe is speaking, and then you speak. And when the person speaks, what I mean by the universe is speaking in the inseparability of the self and the world, there is no communicator. For the first time, all points of communication, imagine there was a point A of communicating reality and a point B. All of those points will be seen to be, in some sense, the circumference of a circle. Now, when I say future visions of an advanced reality, I want to move beyond the advanced communicator, and I want to kind of gift myself in this episode. Of realities beyond advanced communications. An advanced reality takes the mystery of intelligence beyond humanization. Right now, when I'm giving this talk, when I'm speaking, I'm trying to, in some sense, this is the difficulty of just poetry and mysticism and anything of the beyond when speaking about, where it's as if we want to know about what is beyond the human being, but we can only understand it through the language of a human being. And this is what's interesting. People are trying to comprehend the experiential nature of reality in books, not realizing language. It is in some sense a man-made generated phenomena, and then we can make the argument that there was intervention. Let's say, there's billions of religious people on the planet. That can't be ignored. But my point is that when we march beyond the human framework, there requires to be an incredible stability with the observable dimensions of one's intelligence and the unobservable. The observable dimensions, the lessons, and cultivating them and going through them will give you the strength for the invisible. I don't know, I don't think if I've read this somewhere, but there's this notion that how does one work with the invisible? That means imagine there was a visible person in front of you, very easy to communicate. There is objects, there's a body, but how could one communicate to space? And so, but the most mysterious thing about mysticism is that when you go trying to communicate to space, you realize you are space communicating. And so we don't realize it, but everywhere, even as I'm speaking, do you know how many eyes are peering through? every moment, space does not belong. We think space is, we try to kind of use it as an identity of our dimension. But space belongs to no one. Space is authority from beyond. Imagine right now we are on the level of the body. Let's use this body, mind, soul traditional classification and just treat it for the body, mind, soul of the planet. The body of the planet, very obvious. We're living on it. We consider that we are the body of the planet. We are like a part of this earth that's separated from itself, and it got a nice tan and it woke up into civility, into I term it subjective evolution, but in schools they don't teach this. The body of the planet, the mind of the planet, the soul of the planet. The body of the planet is observable. The mind of the planet is dynamic and it's unobservable. It can't be observable, or if it is, it's multidimensional. That means it's as if, like, how could a person explain let's say somebody goes on a roller coaster ride and somebody's like, how was it? It's like, which point, when in the roller coaster ride? Like, the person gives a general answer, it was a nice roller coaster ride, but when you really look at it in the specifics, it's like a moment of completion is endless. It's like, you know what it is? Completion is a line. Incompletion, a person feeling incomplete, is on a dot level, and it's as if dot, dot, dot. It's like, what am I doing in this life? That's one moment. Then, oh my God, what am I doing in this life? That's another moment. Oh my God, what am I... And so these are all points, and from the beginning of our life, we have been pointing ourselves in the space-time continuum. Literally. That's why people say, what's the point to life? From the view of the line, it is all one. And this is why, in some sense, the authorization for those who become non-dual behind their eyes has a supremacy that the chaotic dual cannot comprehend. You see, when one navigates in their inner realms, and this is a concept that I am trying to it's a very sensitive topic, because man's mind is not an object, so we cannot fully define it, but at the same time we have tools and instruments and a certain technology to be able to define it. So man is kind of like a square that has realized he's a cube, and has realized that in some sense the technologies of the square are not fitting into the cube. Right? That means when I look at an ant, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this ant, and I'm thinking life is so complex to live, an ant is getting through this life, why can't I? You know? But then I think about it in the sense that it's as if gods, you know, I thought, what if timeless beings are looking at us in time and being like, oh my God, these creatures, these temporary creatures in time, you know, look at them, they're making it, and I'm timeless, I should probably be like, you know, it's like our temporary lives could be inspiring the eternal, who knows, you know, the mystery that watches over us. I find a man by the name of Terence McKenna, he has said one of the most incredible statements on this planet. And he said there is another tenant in the room, and this is something that scares the analytical philosopher, but all the continental philosophers are like, about time we see the unknown elephant in the room. And the unknown elephant in the room is the instantaneity of attention with energy. And in the inner realms, one has to not only have an ability to objectify, subjectify, but you have to have an ability to detach from the witness. That means people are being told to kind of disconnect and detach. I mean, it's called detachment, but it's not like something you do. It's as if you, through noticing, you find yourself. You look through the eyes of a self that has already been free. I don't know what greater enlightenment a person can look for on this planet. You know, it's like you realize you're free and you start working. And if you want to be free beyond, let's say a person keeps going beyond, let's say a person transcends. It's like, okay, I was in dimension A, I transcended, I went to dimension B, oh my god, I did everything I gotta do there, now I went to dimension C, and it's endlessly. And it's as if, what are we playing? Like, infinity is throwing us bones and our dogmas are catching it thinking they know the truth. Like, after some point, one will come to some dehumanized state of mind. Now, that dehumanized state of mind will either be multidimensionally dehumanized, and what that means is that the person doesn't know how to hold their memories. What that means is, imagine the human psychology is a container. Now imagine that you overflow that cup, okay? Like you keep pouring water. It's gonna, in some sense, after it overflows, it just falls from the brim of the cup. So similarly, I would say, even if, let's say the cup is cracking, it's as if and water is like slowly coming out from the cup. You know, this is like a suggestion that human psychology tends to happen as a giant inner phenomena. I feel usually people are 80% being a mind and 20% being a body. The body is, believe it or not, being used as a vehicle for unknown space. This cannot be denied. That means human beings, they're like, okay, do I know something? And the person's like, I don't know. And when the person doesn't know, that is in some sense the unknown. I apologize, this was on mute and I was talking. But where I was going, I don't know how much of it was recorded, but I was saying that we enter this world. We are as an individual, physical individual. This physical object, this human object, biological object, is named. As it is named, it is communicated to. As it is communicated to, at the moment the child can hold its name, hold in a sort of noticing power, right? Then the domains of communication become accessible. And so, imagine a person's name is very important, of course. Not in a sense like what the name is, but how you are in the story of civilization. And your name is your membership in the linguistic simulation. Anybody who's a named individual right now, we are existing in a story and we cannot ignore this. So, excuse me. So, as the child is communicated to, it becomes an individual, and like the Transformers movie where the Transformers saw a better car and transformed to it, all children, all human beings are learning from body language. We don't realize this, but a lot of human memories, there is the shape of a body. To have a human memory where you don't see a body is either you're looking at the sky or there is, in some sense, a dream stage or something like that. Somewhere where you can't see, your body. In any situation where the body is not visible, because it is strange enough that it's first-person view. Our eyes as biological creatures. It's as if we weren't meant to see our mind. We weren't meant to see our body. We are designed to look through the body, like our eyes aren't like a drone above our head seeing us, our eyes are inside the biological body. Not that it's not possible to experience non-local moments of your attention. There's some schools of thought that they believe in going out of body, and then there's some schools of thought that they say you are out of body. There is no going out of body. The mind is not the body. How could it be the body? So it's like a coin flip of a choice where you see your body belongs to your mind, and then you animate as a mind entity, or your mind belongs to your body, you animate as a physical entity. And it is in some sense a declaration of not one's intent, but every person's heart is doing an invisible work through them. And not all are aware of that work. If you become aware of the work of your heart, it is timeless. It is kind of how the yogis would say you need to find your divine memory. So technically this child that is named in society as an individual goes on living as an individual until it realizes before the name there was a giant unknown. And that giant unknown, the moment the human being realizes there's more unknown than known, something happens in the universe, as if the lords of karma suddenly stare at the person and it's like, he's got it. That person's got it. Why? Because it's no longer a game of is chaos more true than order. There is an unknown to chaos, and there is an unknown to order, and the unknown of chaos and the unknown of order surpasses the known order and the chaotic order, all of them. That means anything you see shaped, there are forces, there is a might standing behind the veil of this realm, and it is watching. It is watching as a sort of performance critique, as if before this planet had creatures on it, there was just, imagine a coliseum of invisible sight in space, and then a command came. And the command was, use your freedom beyond your freedom. The mythology of the next 1,000 years will arise from the efforts of human beings now. a human being can think that they are. I have fathomed it in 4 states. I feel there can be 4 general states of mind, and whether the person thinks they are a personality, there's multiple. Their memories are kind of being intermingled with their present personality. That means it's like a person, in order to be stable in society, your memories are kind of like your past, your visualizations. It's like the person functions through present and future, usually. Okay? And if the person cannot be content with their past will try to intervene in their present. Therefore, there arises a conflict between the past and the future. And this conflict between the past and future, I personally feel, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just sharing my view as just a human being, that I feel this is where the whole psychology of they say some people are bipolar, or they say that there's a multiple fragmentation in the psychology. This is happening because oneself is not enough. The person, it's like some people have this view, it's like, I'm just trying to be this first, but then there's some people who are being multiple things, and that's in some sense the way the life moves. There was no rule book from the beginning. That's the bizarre fact of life, that we are on a rock in the middle of nowhere, and the significance of meaning comes from our attention. So believe it or not, a person can become so dismissive of themselves that, just like how they can have there's a stack of paper just thrown on a table, a person can have that relationship with their mind. If a person doesn't care for their ability, they'll never use it. That means that's the challenge in life, to find a story to the world where the better you is already living in. So the stabilization of any sort of psychology being fragmented is a recognition. That means we thought we had to tell the person, learn to be a concept in society, but it's wrong. The person cannot be a concept in society unless in their heart they have found the proper context of society, and that proper context of society is absent. And if people are more hopeless about the future than hopeful, I am telling you, that is normal AF. That is expected. It's as if our failure is not the surprise, our success is. That means if there was a meteor that hit the earth right now out of nowhere, and we all human beings were like, oh my god, we lived so long, why? And imagine that meteor hit earth, right? We should have an ability and the audacity. We shouldn't think that's failure. You see, that means our success is the surprise. I mean, failure, it's like nobody was anything from the beginning. Everybody was nothing at first, It's as if they asked the person, what's your earliest memory? And the person's like, oh yeah, I remember the time I was nothing. It's like, remember when we were nothing, like 1,000 years ago? What a calm time. And so to be properly is the effort of the communicating creature. And it's messy. I'm telling you that my hardest challenge, this is one thing that if after this walk of my eyes in this realm, I feel the biggest concern I will have when I look at the sky is the sky, when I look through the sky is the sky. It would be simply this fact that, did I manage to push the cultural programs conviction of the future ahead of now? You see, because there's some people who are trying to solve problems in the past, and the problems in the past, they're done. That means anybody who has a problem with your own past, why? Your past is past. It has passed you. It is done. right? That's the biggest resolution. You know, all the things I've been through in this life. You know, that's one thing I'm grateful. I'm like, oh, I've lived through all my memories. I mean, you know, it's like I got through them. You know, and I don't know. There needs to be advancement, and communication can only, like, what can advance? Either how subjects are moving on the planet can advance, or objects moving on the planet to advance. And people's subjective life, their mind's life, has become so dependent on objects that they feel they cannot go beyond the boundary of what the object tells them their subjective self has to be. An advanced reality could totally imply a dehumanized state, and a dehumanized state, that's I would say fragmented psychology. That's its own issue. That's a huge psychological like I could totally, like, you know, sympathize with, like, psychologists and how to deal with fragmented psychology. But the biggest issue is that when we don't know what the mind is, what are we diagnosing? Oh, the continental philosophers should have raged louder. That's what's missing. Anybody who's in a continental philosopher in a university, find a lantern and run into every faculty shouting, you know. Because I'm telling you, what the world needs is not truth, like fast food. There's no such thing. It is a journey. We are like warriors in a battlefield, and every person's intelligence is like their unique weapon and shield, sword and shield in the battlefield, right? And every person has to not only admire their future. That means I could tell you that there's been times where I have sacrificed my present for the future. I have sacrificed my past for the present. That means I was in the present and somebody was making me angry, and my past wanted to kind of, unleash a roar, and then I just held it, The solution to the mind is that we draw boundaries. That's one thing our species is good at, building maps. And Carl Jung suggested this. There's a book which is I haven't read yet, but I'm planning to do one in the future. But it's this incredible book called Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson. And the whole idea, just in the titles alone, reality is something that when we experience it, we have a choice if we want to do something with it or not. Every moment. That means a person could be waiting, in line and super bored, but in an instant they can choose, all right, let me see if there's anything in the moment that I don't know. And they literally, imagine like a future, like RoboCop in that movie. The person just scans the whole moment for unknown variables, and the moment they find unknown variables, they ask themselves, why is the moment unknown to me? I feel that's one of those superior questions, By using the term inner realm and outer realm, for the first time our species has a chance to respond, kind of like Attack on Titan, like the first victory of humankind, against giant problems. When we can discriminate between what is a subject in the moment, what is real as a subject first, then an object, and what is real as an object first, then a subject. What is this sound? Oh my god, don't tell me construction's happening. Oh, hold on, guys. Okay. So the sound's gonna go away soon. All right. Retaliation against. Man, I've opened too many paintings. Retaliation of human psychology. We are a conscious creature in a giant unknown empty space. Our rebellion of our attention to the void is in using it. So if a human being lives consciously and attempts to live fully and attempts to see what the efficient vision of the win-win strategy would be, that means individuals win and collectives win. It's easy. Communication, the moment it's allowed multidimensionality, everything can be negotiated till the end of time. I'm telling you, everything you can see more dimensions to if there's an energy that is caring to know. Okay. An object becomes is named as a subject. It becomes aware it's an object. Then it considers itself as a subject. Then the subject feels that normality is only defined by individualism. And so when the individual experiences states of mind that surpass the human narrative, the human being may feel that their mind is not in the room. That can happen. Imagine a state of mind. In the future, imagine there's beings that their state of mind is void. Imagine human beings where their state of mind is individual. It is easy for them to be individual. Imagine there are human beings where they cannot fathom themselves individually. They have taken the philosophy of chaos and order so seriously that there has to be a chaotic self and there has to be an ordered self. So these are the dualists. And then there will even be those who will have infinite psychology. An example of that will probably be AI. AI will be the example of a infinitely fragmented psyche. Let's say a voidist, let's say a voidian, a singularian, or a dualitarian, and an infinitarian, you know. That means an advanced civilization will be able to assist those who feel they are space, they are nothing. Imagine it, the civilization so advanced it even serves nothing. A civilization that serves individuals, we have that going. A civilization that serves dualistic psyche, you know, that means there can be this argument made that can you imagine a world where people had to show two types of driver's license? One for their ordered self and one for their chaotic self? Or two types of certification, as if there was always two. This thing that the psychology, like two brain hemispheres being one brain, just like how two can be one can be two anytime. Imagine an extraterrestrial comes that just makes noise. Like makes noise that we can't comprehend, but it's telepathic. Telepathic beings, they would probably be singularians. But we who use language, we are dualitarians, let's say. The infinite, this would be timeless. That means after some point, okay, I think I got the picture now. More clearly, a state of emptiness and fullness, they are not human. That means if we think of wanting to be everything, let's say you're like oneness, everything's oneness right now, you know. Oneness is not human. Emptiness is not human. That means the solipsist and the solipsists and the nihilists are told to go sit on the bench. That's not for human psychology. The only thing we can say for human is maybe the dual and the infinite. We cannot know what it means. Like an empty human doesn't make sense. A full human, like a full being, doesn't make sense. A dualistic being makes sense, and an infinite being, we don't know yet. We don't know what that even looks like, how we can fathom an infinite being, right? Because all our knowledge and understanding and comprehension is from a finite temporary realm. You know, it's like from one angle, the drop is in the river. From another angle, the drop is alone on a leaf, and from another angle, the drop is in the ocean, and the river is in the ocean, and life was complete from the beginning, and nature was, and then you happened. And so when the recognition, when this is kind of like in Studio Ghibli, there was this anime called Princess Mononoke, and in there was a scene where it was like the god of nature was walking. You know, the spirit of the truth of nature was walking in nature. What that means is the divine had entered, the light had entered the shadow. That means it's kind of like there's a view of the sun, and imagine now the sun incarnated on earth, you know. It's all about piloting and where the person wants to pilot. A person who gives up, we can say their psychology is way more prone to being fragmented. A person who has some sort of aim, direction, they looked at all this stuff here and felt like they could do something with it. It's like purpose singularizes you. And all I feel what it is that when somebody says, I need to find my purpose, what's my mission in this life, like that mentality, the air with that mentality is you feel you're not already being a part of your purpose. That means it's just, for me, it's bizarre, this fragmentation of psychology. and let me tell you why it's bizarre, because it's as if the brain, which is a singular object, like this jello in our skull, the brain is a singular object, this flying spaghetti monster, and this brain is an object, but it generates views upon itself subjectively and multiply. It's as if like the moment they tell the person you're a self now, and the person's like, really, but what kind of self? And you look at everybody. I mean, think of it this way, that when a person is having a conversation, in order to understand the other person, we say you gotta put yourself in that person's shoes. And say, let's say somebody does put themselves in another person's shoes. Does that mean your psychology is fragmented? Does that mean just because you look through the eyes of another to understand their view, you have multiple personas? You see, reality is it's our speech. Our language is so crucial. Our language is the biggest. The misuse of language is the biggest illness. And one must treat, this is something that I shared in a talk before, the talk before this one, but it's that you gotta make your body your ally, your mind your ally, and the soul, but the soul being an ally is in a totally different way of experience. What that means is a person should look at their biological existence and be like, okay, these are the elements of the periodic table that I've come to serve the space of my unknown attention. So as if you are the unknown general, and all sensory perception and all classifications and content of your mind and all that is in the realm, they are at your service. But not in the outer realms I'm speaking about, I mean in the inner realms. That means this is a kind of way of me saying that you start accepting life, and when you do, the monsters and the fear goes away. Fear dispels when you care to look at something as it is, rather than as you first thought it was. person may never know why a moment is being the way it is when there's so many moments, so many states of mind, so many approaches to reality. I'm just trying to say that our civilization is slowly waking up beyond how language is meaning everything, and we're going to revalue direct experience and the best thing we can do with multidimensional tolerance. That means a person who wants to understand the moment never gives themselves a chance to get angry. They're trying to understand the event. And there's a level of reality where one is alone with oneself. That is so important to cultivate. To be able to accept how energy was never separate. Energy is being. The dehumanized states of reality, being and potential. I feel the mind cannot experience time because it is creating the concept of time. If it experiences it, it's experiencing its own free will. But the body can be pinpointed in time. So we should say space and time are concepts that serve in discovering what the body is, what the mind that is creating language, that is accepting it, that is projecting it, simulating it. That is the grand mystery. And I don't know. Right now, I'm just this person saying this, but I don't know how many people in global academia care to enter the unknown and change the educational systems of this planet into giant explorer stations. We should literally treat education like all knowledge like the Night's Watch. You know, the realms that guard man from the unknown, let's say. You know, so and then we should have exhibitions beyond the walls of our sight. You know, this is the most important thing, that a person will never know their strength until they allow the energy that is within them to somehow faithfully step out. You know, that's this one power of faith, that without faith you can't even make a slam dunk. In the chat section, the natural lawyer says, but aren't we our own futuristic AI, the ancient future? I actually gave a talk on this called Ancient Scriptures from a Young Future. It's this notion that we think time is a straight line, but time is like an upside down bell curve. And so it started from the timeless, and it has come into time, and it goes back into the timeless. Lorna says education is made for us to become slaves. No. The educational system from the 1900s, inspired by the British Empire, I believe, the major educational system was designed to literally think of yourself as a leader of a nation, and think as if your nation is at war. What are you going to teach kids? You're going to teach kids how to become soldiers to defend the empire, because it's like war, right? So educational systems were made, and this was at a time where I believe it was Morse code, and soldiers had to go to one bunker, memorize the information exactly, run to the other bunker and share the information, and it had to be exactly on point. right? And the educational system, believe it or not, it's scary. It hasn't updated since then. And it's this strange view where, what, 8 million different types of DNA, we think we can have one educational system? No. The educational system should just be a resource. It should be a giant bungee jump thing, you know, where just human beings are born and they just lift off from there, you know. And so we should have this two components introduced in the new ethos of the future generations. Whoever is a cultural engineer, and excuse my coughs, but whoever is a cultural engineer for the future, I don't care if you're a good guy, bad guy, you have to allow multidimensionality to bring in these two forces of exploration and honor. If we have honor to explore the unknown, so pretty much this is what I would say a completed vision of a human being, where you're like, okay, there is a known component to my moment, there's an unknown component, so what is my resolve with the known? Your resolve with the known, believe it or not, if you have not wondered about the unknown, goes back to the unknown. So you could live whatever life and you'll look at the stars and you'll be like, wait a minute, could there be more? And that more is how you're waiting for your own eyes, but the eyes of the future cannot come until there is an exchange. And what that means is consciousness is like an Olympic torch, and every archetype, memory, sense of self that we are in the present is passing on the torch. Now imagine one memory of you in your childhood that you were pushed and couldn't push back, let's say in a school fight or something, and in that situation, so in your psychology, your mind has literally hasn't let go of the Olympic torch of that moment, and so the soul starts getting heavy and heavy and heavy. Why? Because it has, instead of efficiently and rhythmically living life, the being is going off rhythm, and there's a reason why we have conscience and even the word intuition. Why? Because just like how our body heals ourselves, you might not believe it, the mind heals itself. And if the mind is always trying to heal itself, why? Because it knows that that's how it activates. And fear kills a man before he has lived. I have experienced this. I have experienced moments where I have died to myself before I have died to others because of my fear. The fear made me feel small in front of how the potential, you know. The unknown is man's greatest ally, and the known shall also become man's greatest ally. And the human being is objectively the periodic table. Oh my God. Subjectively, we are the story of mankind. Raise the banners of the advanced civilization. The future is arrived. And I thought about what the banners of the flag of an advanced civilization would look like, and I decided it's literally a sky castle in the sky with a whale flying, and in the distance there is the sun shining on the kingdom and the whale. Our future, contrary to all historic belief, is to be upside down in our sky. That means we're kind of creating this strange karma by living on the surface of the earth, that it's as if we're going to live on the surface of the sky but opposite angle to how we were living on the earth. I honestly see coin cities happening. We're going to have giant discs in the future just hovering in the sky, spinning slowly, you know. There's so much to this world, and it is not tapped, and the stories in media are repeating, and the human soul, it is waiting. What is it waiting for? What is the eyes of the human being waiting for? I think it's this deep ingrained need for a savior. and we don't realize it, that we are the presence in the room. That means it's as if all those people afraid of spirits, you are. That means one cannot be afraid of what they are. When you understand what you are, the world opens. And you know what I would say the superior understanding of the advanced communicators in the future is? They have forgiven the world before it has made a mistake. That's why they are advanced. But those who cannot forgive the world, they will be pulled down. The earth will remind you where you are. An advanced reality could be a suggestion beyond the language threshold, beyond being a complete, being an individual. Individual life finishes. The human individual evolves into a collective event, and so we wave on into the edges of the universe. That means, can you imagine, we started at, like Drake says, we started at the bottom, now we're here. We started as a particle, and now we're going to be a wave, you know. We are waving towards the future, but not with our hands, with the totality of all that is the human empire's efforts. Okay? Because it's an effort. Everything in life is an effort. I mean, right now it's taking effort for me to share these, you know, share this talk. It's even taking me an effort to give an effort. There's literally, I'm going back to a regression of endless effort to have effort, to have effort, to have effort, so that this effort becomes that effort, and we're like, oh my God, is a drop trying to be an ocean inside a river too soon? We need 8 billion human beings to realize they have inner realms and outer realms, and to begin accepting various modalities of reality, and therefore creating automatic tolerance. So what that means is we try to see as many angles possible, and then decisions are made. And it's strange, you know. Sometimes for me, I'm like, reality? Get out of here. You know, it's like, what's real about reality? It is surreality. It's like, reality is you know, it's like the biggest lie. They say imagination isn't real, but then you realize reality is imagined. You're like, you gotta be kidding me, you know. You know, for me it was so bizarre. It was honestly the coolest explorer moment of my life, when I realized all language on this planet is a simulation, and so there is something more going on. The secular societies of the realm, there is no need to believe in a soul. There's no need to believe in abstraction. The idea is, ask yourself, where can we go? It feels like a parallel universe is going to make an entrance into this universe. I feel that, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I feel in this lifetime there is an event. Let's hope it's the multidimensional renaissance. Bertrand Russell gave a moral advice to the future generations, and he said, charity and tolerance. That means we have to tolerate all the mistakes of our species until it becomes a threat. And we're still fighting over what is truth. You know, it's like, oh, does that person's vocabulary have truth? Oh my God, does that other person's vocabulary have truth? Our mouth noises of a creature becoming truth, and you see your eyes cannot be lied to. either truth is in the room, or either truth is awake or truth is dreaming. I have the impression truth is dreaming. I feel we are the dream of the higher dimensions right now. That's the ancient term. In the modern way, you can say we are a simulation, because the body, no, the body, sure, we give it some history. The Hubble telescope discovered background radiation, and we're like, okay, there seems to be a bang, you know, and it seems to be big. But the mind is non-local, so how do we find the history of a non-local mind? You know, I'm pretty sure there's so many people on this planet entertaining reincarnation, but then out of all, let's say all those people who entertain reincarnation, how many of them believe the reincarnation has been only human, and how many people believe the reincarnation has been beyond human? You know, how many people even feel that in the process of reincarnation there's a middle, like in Vedanta they called it Antarloka, the middle world between the realms. And so you see at the end of it, I mean, the beginning past, the middle is present, and the future will end. This is the remarkable thing. The end of the present is the end of the future, not the end of the future. You know, that means while one is alive, there is some sort of hope. I mean, I feel through the context of communication, our species will find salvation. We advance communication, we advance an ability to look at a concept from different points of view. For the first time, there will be a contextual liberation. What that means is, for the first, we ask, what is freedom? And freedom becomes how the paintbrush of your free will moves on this canvas. That means, is the physical world sandwiched between an individual, invisible, an invisible self and an invisible world? That means, could it be that maybe this is the geometry of it, where we have a visible self, then we have an invisible self, then we have a visible world, and we have an invisible world. So we can say that the individual self, what am I saying? Excuse me, not individual. The invisible self is sandwiched between a visible self and a visible world, and we can say the invisible, hold on, guys. This is what I'm saying. The invisible self is sandwiched between the visible self and the visible world. The visible world is sandwiched between the invisible self and the invisible world. The invisible world is sandwiched between a visible world and a visible self. And the visible self is sandwiched between an invisible world and an invisible self. There we go. I think this is a perfect explanation of what's going on. So this technically means we are in a wheel of 4 dimensions. Seems like the gods are spinning the wheels of fortune. I did make a request once. I'll share this. This is kind of a bizarre personal thing I'm sharing, but there was a moment where I strangely made something like a prayer. And I was like, okay, let's say I'm on this rock in the middle of nowhere, and who knows if there's extraterrestrials in other dimensions or whatever, if there's gods, whatever. It's like, who knows what's beyond the observable. But for a moment I was like, let's say there is, and then I just felt like making a command, as if whatever, if there is a truth out there, it would hear it. And it's like telling God to forgive himself. Something the creator cannot expect from the creation. That means usually we are concerned about the health of the individual in the world. We're not concerned about the health of the world and the individual. We are dying to live and living to die. Physical dismissal is inevitable. Non-physical oh my god, this song's too mellow. Beyond the give and take algorithm of psychology, we can become, for the first time, a species that has developed a system of communication where it is communicating with objects, with subjects, with an objective self, an objective world, and a subjective self and a subjective world, and there's no longer the concept of ghost, spirit, some forgotten mythos in the abyss. We start creating archives and databases of all the ways that human psychology functions, and for a second consider that if cruelty was never on the planet and every person could trust the system and the system could trust itself, then we would totally use a surveillance state to our advantage. It would become a glorious time in human living and not a golden age. It will become the human diamond age, where multidimensional experience could become live stream. That means imagine in the future, right now you're hearing my voice. The audience doesn't have, let's say, the experience of my sensation as I'm saying the words, or they can't see the film, the inner film, I'm trying to voice it. But imagine in the future you would be able to. We would able to be not only teleport, but we would be able to teleport into each other's minds. And so now imagine 8 billion minds. That means 8 billion versions of the world all coming to one singular point. A spiral of endless heavens on earth. The dance of the heavenly minds. I feel the advanced communicators in the future, they are given a permission that no good and bad creature can step into that jurisdiction, as if the middle way has now become a cultural position. The advanced communicators' principles follow the line of every communication can be advanced. Every moment can continue as long as free will has the energy to express. You know, it's like some people go to the gym and they max out their effort, and so it's like the muscles, the muscle fibers tear, you know, and the person can't push anymore. And so as their muscles go to failure, there's that moment where you've done your last effort and you can't go any further, and it's like, you kind of fall, you rest, right? And I feel if every human being just realized that life happens once, you have an intelligence, this intelligence can max out, but it also needs to be piloted. Right? And if you use everything you have seen in your life as if they're tools on an island, and you try to survive beyond the conception of reality in the void, you will be of the first to have your foot in, let's say, paradise's door, but then hold the door open. This is all poetic. I'm trying to say that we're going to reach a certain point of communication, that it's going to be such advanced multidimensional psychology. Everything we think that isn't normal about human minds, the humans, let's say, the simulations of the psyche, all that we're acknowledging that's unreal, or we're scared of, or we don't know what it means, or all of that, that is all going to become obscure. It's going to become forgotten in the vision that saw a much more advanced context. That means it's like back in the day, they thought disease was like demons or something, you know. Then they're like, oh my God, we just need to wash our hands. So a lot of things, their impact. Now imagine a person thinking the Black Plague is like back in the days, the wrath of God, right? And one can see that our eyes polish truth. Our eyes generate not only how much we extract from a moment as vision, but what we do with that vision. And one can choose in the middle of doing something. This was what I was so inspired in my youth to figure out what was it that kind of like these masters in these fictional Chinese movies I would see, where the person would like hit a bunch of people, you know, but the person would be calm, and their mastery was as if they had a center that could not be disturbed, as if they had truly realized it is all unknown. So when you can forgive the unknown for not knowing how to know, then, you know, the unknown becomes your ally. The spirits of the realm, you know, and when I say spirits of the realm, I don't mean like you know, ethereal forms moving around. I mean authorizations, activations in the realm, as if you will it, you find yourself in a new program of life. It's strange. advanced reality means what you saw real can't be just real anymore. It has to be either something expands or change has the final one. And in the subtitle I've written, The Ultimatum of Consciousness, this is a big question I find of what do we do with attention? And this is where attention is a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged blade. That means in your outer realms, your attention can choose to animate as a humanized, as a physical, biological, humanized, conscious moment. Or in your inner realms, you can choose to, pretty much the inner realms, really, the content of it is not your choice, in the sense that if somebody says apple, the image of apple just appears in your ear, in your mind. You know, let's say you saw an apple in your childhood and somebody says apple, and you suddenly see an apple, you see that apple, right? That's your mind. That's how that means that you can't, it's like the mind can't control what senses it receives, but it can control how it interprets the senses. And when people lose the will to interpret, to realize that it's their responsibility of the originating free will to interpret the senses, then they slowly feel the world is pushing them. And the only response to that would be that you're here once. Whose time are you really wasting? The vision of the future would be advanced to such a degree that I would say if everything would be multidimensional. That means right now I'm looking at a microphone, there's going to be so many different kinds of imaginable microphones, you know, so many different technology designs, you know. Somebody said there was like more than 10 ways of technologies for flight, but they all got lost when the Wright brothers, where the methodology for the Wright brothers worked. That means all those other technologies, instead of updating and becoming more, you know, they were forgotten and were sent back into the void. And this is why when man doesn't dominate an idea, the diamond slips from his hand, you know, back into the sea or wherever. Let me see what I haven't shared that I can still see. The concept of the future will not exist in the future. I'm sure of that. The moment we go beyond humanism. And vision, if it goes beyond human, then there's no longer extinction. Because extinction is really a traditionally human idea. That means humans are concerned about extinction. Animals don't have the concept of extinction. I mean, they have fear. They can experience fear, they can see what's going on, but they don't conceptualize it perhaps in the way we do. And I feel most human beings have a expression threshold and a reception threshold. That means regardless of what happens, they need to express to understand, and they need to receive to understand. If wisdom is forgotten, people should learn from the fearless. And if the fearless are forgotten, people should find a mirror and stare into it, as metaphorically saying this. A person should find a moment of self-reflection where the self is, where the true self is no longer believing its reflection, pretty much, you know. You know what what an advanced future technology would be like? It would be like in the future, these spheres following people, and these spheres can create holograms. And let's say you're a person walking in a park and there's no bench, and you command the sphere to create you a bench, and it creates through this hologram like technology that somehow the person can sit on, you know, and you can suddenly have a hologram bench to sit on, you know. I mean, honestly, in the future, it's totally holograms are going to take over teaching. I mean, teachers are just going to become holograms. There's no cooler way. It's just going to be a dark room, and these geometric line holograms are going to, in some sense, become future teachers, you know. That means it's like cyberspace avatars. We don't realize cyberspace is a world inside a world that we have built. So what that means is our imagination is the prototype of cyberspace, and when we truly build cyberspace and have a way to transfer our consciousness through it, I don't know, that's when the spirit in the machine is probably done with the machine. But something continues. That means the mind will speak even though the soul has never. That means my soul has never, in some sense, spoken. People have never heard my soul. You know, that being mystical here. June in the chat section says cyberspace avatars question mark. Yes. Cyberspace avatars mean that imagine 8 billion human beings got bored of the outer realms, and they went into cyberspace where we could be like gods, and we went into that cyberspace and we became gods. Or let me say, imagine a civilization where 50% of the population was living in cyberspace. They were like, they felt they couldn't fit into the cultural program, and they're like, why am I wasting my vitality in this realm? And so imagine there's these pods where the person goes and their body stays healthy and immortalized, you know. Not immortalized, but in the sense of like their body, like the person living in this kind of protein liquid pod. I'm seeing something where other movies have also contributed to the vision. But I'm saying it in the suggestion of just that the body's life becomes less important. It'd be another way of saying like a cryo chamber. Imagine you freezing yourself and waking up in 100 years. But instead of freezing, your body is in a technology where it's enduring, and you're just occupying a certain space in the space-time continuum, right? So it's like a counteraction to overpopulation if we can't build sky cities in time. Right? And so it would be like a slumber. It would be a cyberspace hibernation. And now imagine in that cyberspace reality, there's teachers in schools, and the teachers in those schools would most likely be cyberspace avatars. That means their minds would be all information possible. So what that means is that because the teacher, like a school teacher, can remember so much, you know, to a certain degree, when the students ask a question, you know, this is how I think the first student was kicked out of class ever in history, right? The teacher was talking, the student asked the question, the teacher answered. The teacher was giving the lesson again, the student asked another question, you know, and you know, and the student kept asking a question, why? Eventually, the student asked a question that was totally to answer it, the person had to be an expert in another field, in another branch of knowledge, you know. And then the teacher was like, hey, you see that door? You know, that's where your answer is, you know, beyond that door. June says, I'm ready for the ascension, God bless. I mean, I'm just saying a cyberspace probability. The better strategy is to stay biological and cyberspace, where we were so street smart. We're like, hey, how do we make it so that we get cyberspace and reality? You know, it's like a bargaining deal, you know, it's like put cyberspace in reality and I'll buy reality, okay? Yeah. But I'm telling you, it's like that marketplace is different. We haven't gotten even close to that sophistication. That means before the cyberspace renaissance, think of it, there has to be a geometrical renaissance. That geometrical renaissance is so important. That means, let's say a person looking at a fractal geometrical shape through some computer program displayed, like people can Google it, like a fractal geometric shape. Let me see if I could find a GIF actually. Fractal is a very unique thing. People should just Google it. But let me see a true fractal geometric shape. Yeah, this is a cool version of it. Let me see. There we go. One can say this is a fractal, and guys, I'm just gonna put it for a little while because it's so okay. If people look at the video of the talk, you're gonna find a GIF there. Okay, this is what a fractal is, and there were some, some mathematicians, they felt, oh my God, this is whoever made this was genius. Okay, I can't, for some reason I can't find the file, not the file, it's like I can't share it, but anyways, this picture is enough, whatever. So this picture is a fractal, it's this endlessly kind of repeating thing, and so this is why piloting your attention is important. Because if your attention pilots to one type of moment, it could have a fractal sort of echo, right? There will be a geometrical renaissance. I don't know how, but I feel it's going to happen. Geometry has to separate from mathematics. That means it has to become its own branch. It's not, geometry is a part of mathematics. Mathematics is a part of geometry. Geometry will become the ultimate study. Language and geometry, these two fields, anybody studies this, goes towards them, the future's mind. You will comprehend the future's mind. Anyways, this was a long episode. Thank you for listening. And the ultimatum of consciousness. I'm learning this every day, but it is not an intellectual work. I'm just saying we have an intellectual effort towards building an advanced civilization as a sort of great backup system, and then we can rest easy. And in the future, if everything becomes automated, it's going to become the work of the mind, and we could have always, from the beginning, lived as minds. awaken to your true nature. Why? Because why would all of this be here? That is the miracle of phenomena. It's just here. You know, I find that is the ultimatum. We redeem, we remember eternity through the temporal. We are the temporary dance of eternity.